My wife left me for another man after calling me selfish and irresponsible, then begged to come back when she saw how much money I was making. So here's what's going on. I'm trying to make sense of everything that's happening, even though it's all a bit of a mess in my head right now. My wife, Sarah, and I have been married for 8 years, and our anniversary was just last month. Instead of giving me something like a watch or cologne, she handed me an envelope during our dinner at a fancy restaurant, which I thought was for our celebration. I opened it, and bam, divorce papers. She sat there calmly as I tried to process what was happening, like she expected me to thank her or something. I keep replaying it, and it still feels unreal. The waiter came over to ask about dessert just as I finished reading, and I was in shock, not knowing what to say, while Sarah just ordered tiramisu like everything was normal. I tried to figure out where things went wrong. Okay, backtrack to about 6 months ago, the company I worked for got bought by a huge corporation. They basically gave us a choice: take a 20% pay cut and stay, or take a severance package and leave. It felt pretty clear they wanted most of us gone. I'd been there for 12 years, had worked my way up from nothing, and really liked my job. A 20% pay cut was a big deal, but Sarah also does well for herself as a dental hygienist, and we don't have kids yet, so I thought we could manage. Maybe it would even be good to simplify our lives a bit, right? But when I told Sarah, she was all about how it would mess up our 5-year plan, what people would think, and how we'd meet our savings goals. I expected some support or understanding, but instead, we argued. She said I was selfish, and I thought she was being shallow, focused only on money. Things got heated. She took off to her sister's place for a couple of days, and when she came back, she was still distant. I figured she'd come around once she saw we could make it work, so I chose to stay at my job with a pay cut. But Sarah got resentful, saying I gave up too easily and that real men would maintain their full salary. She'd compare me to her friends' husbands getting promotions and raises, leaving articles about career advancement lying around to remind me. It felt like she was punishing me for my choice, even though I thought it was the right one for both of us. It made me wonder if she ever really supported my career or just liked the money it brought in. Then, about 3 months in, I started thinking about starting my own consulting business since I had a ton of experience. When I mentioned it to Sarah, she dismissed it as too risky and irresponsible. She made it sound like I was dreaming up something that wouldn't work, so I didn't pursue it right away. But the idea kept bugging me. I started secretly researching and reaching out to old colleagues and clients. The feedback was great. Some were frustrated with changes since the buyout and interested in working with me. It boosted my confidence, so I quietly set up a business plan. I didn't tell Sarah because I knew she'd shoot it down again, hoping to get everything ready before bringing it up. After about 2 months of planning, I was ready. I had contracts lined up and decided to quit my job. I came home stoked to share the news with Sarah, expecting her to be thrilled. Instead, she flipped, accusing me of making a huge decision without her and gambling with our future. She said she couldn't trust me anymore. I tried to explain my research and plans, but she wouldn't listen. The fight was brutal, with both of us saying awful things. She even said she wished we hadn't married and that she deserved better stability. I told her maybe she should find someone else if she felt that way. She left and didn't return until the next morning. Since then, things have been icy between us, like we're just roommates who can't stand each other, barely talking unless we absolutely have to. So, things at home were pretty rough, like, crazy tense. We couldn't even figure out simple stuff like schedules or bills without it turning into a big deal. I started hanging out at Starbucks or any other coffee shop just to escape the bad vibes. Weirdly enough, my business was killing it. In the first month alone, I almost made what I used to make at my old job. By the second month, I was making even more. But Sarah was so caught up in being mad at me that she didn't seem to care or notice. I kept hoping that once she saw how well things were going, she'd chill out, but nope. Instead, she got more distant, working late, and hanging out with friends without me. I started to think something was up but didn't want to jump to conclusions, so I just gave her space. Now, here's the kicker about our anniversary. This is when things really hit the fan. Sarah suggested we hit up this fancy restaurant where we had our first anniversary dinner. I thought she was ready to repair things, maybe even acknowledge my business success. She looked great and seemed happy for the first time in forever. We started having a decent chat about normal stuff, and I felt hopeful. But then, bam! She pulls out this envelope saying it's an anniversary gift. I was thinking, tickets? A sweet card? Nope. It was divorce papers. I felt like I'd been punched. And she just sat there with this weird smile, like she was enjoying every second of my confusion. I asked her what was going on, and she just calmly explained she thought it was better to handle it this way rather than a big fight. She went on about how she had already talked to a lawyer and figured out how to split everything. I was in shock. I pointed out how the business was doing great, thinking it would help. But she shrugged and told me it wasn't about the money now, it was about trust and whether we wanted the same things in life. The whole convo was surreal. She was just eating her salmon and talking logistics. I got mad and asked how she could do this on our anniversary, and she said it felt like poetic justice to end things where they began. I stormed out, sat in my car for hours trying to process everything. When I got home, she was packing to stay with her sister and said her lawyer would be in touch. A week later, my business scored this huge contract, and I was making bank. I foolishly told Sarah about it, and she suggested meeting for coffee. She started saying maybe she was too quick with the divorce papers and missed our life together. I wanted to believe her, but something felt off, so I asked if her change of heart had to do with my business success. She got defensive, then admitted she'd been seeing some guy Derek from her work. Apparently, they were just talking at first but then got involved. She insisted it wasn't serious, but I was fuming. I told her she couldn't just come back because I was doing well after she'd already checked out and started seeing someone else. So, we went back and forth for like 2 hours. She was crying and begging me to give her another shot, and I was just trying to wrap my head around the fact that she'd been lying to me for months. It seemed like she only filed for divorce because she thought she had Derek lined up, and now that I've bounced back and am doing well again, she's having second thoughts. I told her I needed time to think because I was too mad and upset to decide anything right then. She said she understood and hoped we could try counseling or something because she still loved me and just made some bad choices out of fear. That was 3 weeks ago, and she hasn't stopped blowing up my phone, wanting to meet up, go to therapy, or just talk about what we both want. I've been dodging her while I try to figure out what I think and feel about everything that's happened and if there's even a chance to fix this mess. The thing is, looking back, everything seems so calculated and manipulative. I'm left wondering if she ever really loved me or just the lifestyle and security I provided. Maybe she was ready to trade up when she thought she found someone better, but now wants to hedge her bets since my business is doing well. My friends are split on what I should do. Some say marriage is tough, people screw up, and maybe we can get through this if she's genuinely sorry. Others say what she did is unforgivable, and I should move on and find someone who won't bail at the first sign of financial trouble. My sister thinks Sarah showed her true colors when she thought I wasn't going to be successful and that I'd be nuts to take her back. But my mom thinks 8 years of marriage is worth fighting for, and people do stupid things when they're scared and stressed over money. I keep flipping between wanting to give her another chance and feeling like a fool for even considering it. Was the person I thought I married just an act when things were good? So, I guess I'm asking, am I wrong if I just go through with the divorce, or should I try to patch things up even though I don't know if I can trust her again? I'm just tired of going around in circles in my head and need some outside perspective because everyone around me has strong opinions, and I don't know who to listen to anymore. Update: a lot of you suggested I dig more into this Derek guy and the timeline of their relationship. At first, I wasn't sure I wanted to know the painful truth, but I realized I needed to understand what I was really dealing with. Turns out, Sarah was way more dishonest with me than I thought. Everything she told me about being scared when I took a pay cut and panicking when I started my business was basically a load of crap meant to make me feel sorry for her. I started checking our credit card and bank statements to find any clues. Instantly, I found charges for restaurants we'd never been to, movie tickets, and even a hotel from months ago, way before she claimed they met. I also saw from our family plan phone records that she was texting Derek's number 7 months ago, long before she said they started discussing marriage problems at work. By the time I quit my job, they were texting hundreds of times a day and having lengthy calls while she was giving me the cold shoulder at home. The kicker was when I found some emails on my computer, saved in Chrome. She'd been talking to a divorce lawyer 5 months ago, consulting on how to end our marriage before I even mentioned starting my business or before any of our big fights about money. She was asking about protecting her assets and potential settlement details. Reading those emails was like a punch to the gut because it showed she was planning the whole thing long before she claimed to have doubts about us. And it gets worse. I found out she was planning to move in with Derek for months and had even looked at apartments with him. Derek had already put down a deposit on a place before she ever handed me divorce papers and told me she was staying elsewhere. So, here's the deal with my sister. I decided to swing by the address on the lease she had, and sure enough, Sarah's car was just chilling in the parking lot. I knock on the door, and who answers? Derek, looking like a deer caught in headlights. The guy was so panicked he tried to close the door on me, but I wasn't having it. I walked right past him and found Sarah lounging on the couch in a bathrobe, Even though it was, like, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. The showdown that followed was seriously one of the ugliest scenes I've ever been a part of. I was not proud of some of the things I said, but I was so angry and hurt, I just started yelling about how the two of them had been lying to me for months, plotting this whole thing while pretending to care about our marriage. Sarah tried to cover it up by saying she only moved in with Derek after we split and that her staying there was just a temporary thing until she figured out what she wanted long term. But I had all the receipts, the lease Derek sent, emails with the lawyer, phone records, you name it. No way to spin that without admitting she'd been checking out of our marriage way before she said she started having doubts. Derek kept telling me to leave, saying it was between me and Sarah. As if. I told him he was definitely involved since he'd been texting my wife for months while we were still married and living together. I called him out for being a coward, sneaking around instead of being upfront about things. Things got heated real fast, screaming, name-calling, Sarah in tears saying she never meant for it to go down like this. She kept repeating that she still loved me and wanted to work things out. I told her that was BS. You don't accidentally plan a divorce for months and move in with someone else if you're still in love with your husband. Derek finally threatened to call the cops, and I was like, go ahead. I wanted them to know about his affair with a married woman and how they were plotting a divorce so she could shack up with him. But then Sarah pleaded with me not to make it messier, saying we could talk about it privately if I left Derek out of it. So, I left, but I was fuming. I ended up sitting in my car for an hour trying to wrap my head around how I'd been played by someone I trusted completely. That night, Sarah rang me up crying, begging me to meet so she could lay it all out. I almost ignored her, but curiosity got the best of me. We met, and she immediately kicked things off with apologies, saying she knew she handled it all wrong. She said she was just scared and confused, didn't know how to deal with her feelings about our marriage or her thing with Derek, and basically made one bad call after another. She claimed talking to a lawyer and apartment hunting was just her trying to explore her options, figuring out what she really wanted. But she said she only realized we had different values when I quit my job without consulting her. She went on about how seeing my business take off made her see she was wrong about my ability to provide for us and maybe she'd been too hung up on short-term stability instead of trusting in our long-term partnership. And that's why she was now keen to give it another shot, seeing what I could achieve. I grilled her about the hotel charges, the apartment with Derek, and all her little lies about the timeline. That's when she broke down, admitted she'd been seeing Derek for months and they'd gotten physical. But she insisted it was because she felt so disconnected from me and our marriage. She kept saying Derek was just a rebound, a way to cope with loneliness and anger, but that I was the one she truly loved and wanted to be with. She said she realized she was about to throw everything away and now wanted to fix things with us. The whole spiel made me nauseous because, by now, I could see every word was just another lie or some attempt to manipulate me into feeling sorry for her and taking her back. I told her I couldn't trust her anymore after all the deceit and that she was probably only sorry now because my business success suddenly made me more appealing. She got defensive, saying it wasn't about money, really loved me, and regretted her mistakes. But I pointed out how her change of heart was more than a little coincidental, aligning perfectly with me landing a big contract and raking in more money. We ended up arguing for another hour with her promising to ditch Derek, do counseling, and do whatever it took to mend our marriage. But I told her straight up, I couldn't be someone's second choice, especially when their first pick didn't work out. That was just yesterday, and after mulling it over, I'm more convinced than ever that Sarah's about me making good coin again. If my business went belly up tomorrow, I bet she'd be back with Derek or scoping out her next option. I feel like such a fool for buying into her sob story about being scared and messing up when really, she'd lined up her moves months in advance and only changed her tune when staying married to me seemed more profitable. I wanted to update everyone who gave me advice because your comments really opened my eyes. You helped me see that I needed to dig deeper and find out the truth instead of just buying into Sarah's version of events and feeling guilty about not giving her another chance. I'm gonna ring my lawyer tomorrow, start protecting my business assets, and make sure Sarah doesn't get rewarded for her betrayal. I'm done trying to save a marriage with someone who didn't value or respect me the way I did her. So, to answer my original question, I'm definitely not the one in the wrong for refusing to take Sarah back after all this. I'm confident that I'm making the right move by going through with the divorce and moving on without someone who was more into what I could provide than actually wanting to be with me. So, yeah, I guess people saw me more as a walking bank account than who I really am. Big thanks for all the support and advice, by the way. I'll probably keep you guys in the loop after I chat with my lawyer and figure out the next steps. Right now, I just want to focus on my business and moving on from someone who thought of me as a financial backup when her other plans didn't pan out. So, this is probably my last update unless something wild happens. I just wanted to fill you all in on what went down after I figured out the real reason Sarah wanted to patch things up with me. I called up a divorce lawyer yesterday and spent a couple of hours going over all the shady stuff I found out about Sarah and Derek. The lawyer said I had a strong case that she was planning the divorce for ages and that she was having an affair. This helps me big time when it comes to divvying up our stuff and any spousal support. Plus, the lawyer showed me how to protect my business assets, which was a huge relief since most of the success came after Sarah had moved out and shacked up with Derek. She can't really claim she helped with the business boom when she wasn't even around for it. Feeling good about having a solid legal plan, I was ready to wrap this marriage up for good. But then, around noon, Sarah knocks on my door, all hysterical, begging me not to go through with the divorce. She's saying she screwed up big time and would do anything to fix it. Apparently, Derek dumped her the night I confronted them, saying he didn't want to deal with messy divorce drama. So now Sarah's all alone, freaking out about losing both me and Derek. She's crying, claiming she finally realized I was the only one who truly loved her, and she made a dumb mistake ditching our marriage for someone who bailed when things got messy. She's begging me to drop the lawyer and give her another shot, promising to do the counseling thing and prove she's serious about us. I told her I appreciated the apology, but too much had happened, and I couldn't trust her again. I didn't want to be someone's second choice just because their plan didn't work out. She cried harder, insisting that wasn't true and she'd always loved me but got scared and made bad choices. But then she kept bringing up how well my business was doing and how proud she was of my success. It seemed like she was more about the money and the life we could have rather than actually loving me. She even talked about our house, cars, and the vacation we were planning, making it pretty clear she missed the lifestyle more than me. The kicker was when she said her sister reminded her how rare it is to find someone successful and kind, like me, and that she should hang on to that. That's when I realized her apologies were still about money. I told her I was definitely going through with the divorce because I deserved better than being seen as a financial asset. She got angry, calling me cruel, saying everyone deserves a second chance, and that I'd regret tossing away 8 years of marriage. I kept my cool, telling her I wasn't being mean, just realistic about what she'd shown me about herself. She eventually left, threatening to fight me for half of everything, including my business. But my lawyer and I were ready for that game, having already documented everything. This morning, she texted, saying sorry for getting mad, and she still hoped I'd change my mind. She said she understood why I was hurt and claimed she'd always loved me, even if we couldn't make it work. It's kind of sad because I think she genuinely believes she loved me, even though her actions showed otherwise. Tomorrow, I'm meeting with my lawyer to finalize the divorce papers. For the first time in months, I feel relieved and optimistic about the future because I know I'm doing the right thing by not letting anyone manipulate me into staying in a relationship that wasn't what I thought it was. If you haven't yet, please subscribe. And hit the notification bell to stay updated with more crazy real-life stories happening around you.